Okay, you guys. So I'm actually just starting a little bit earlier because I wanted to play just a short, like 10-minute clip of Neely Fuller Jr. talking about the code. It's an interesting conversation. I thought it would give everybody a chance, like get their water, mainly me, the chance to get my water. Hopefully my kids are putting together their play area, so hopefully y'all don't hear them, and hopefully all you hear is him. And I don't have my whole setup, so I hope that you guys can hear the audio, but if you can't, just say something in the chat and then I'll do whatever it is I do to make sure that you guys can hear it. I'll just have to pull out some more equipment. So with that said, I will talk to you guys again in about 10 minutes, and I hope that you enjoy this clip because it's a good one.
5 basic words to describe what needs to be done.
Well, when you put it in the frame of reference, everyone, when they talk about racism and white supremacy, should always start by saying that the focus, the objective should be replace white supremacy with justice. Those are the 5 basic words. And you start your frame of reference from that. The words are very important because when people talk about racism, they tend to get away from the basic focus. If you keep those 5 words in mind, replace white supremacy with justice, then you can keep focus. In many of these discussions on the matter, people tend to get into everything from feminism to words that don't have precise definitions.
And everything else, they go on a tangent.
Yes, right.
Yeah, but this kind of locks it in.
Right, bigotry, discrimination, sexism, a multitude of isms, biracialism, whatever that means, multiculturalism.
Whatever that means.
Yes, and so you get into a myriad of words that don't apply to the focus of what you're talking about. So therefore, that is the basic frame of reference that you should always focus on. That should be used by all people who are talking about the problem as it is.
What is the tragic arrangement, or the 3 T's, if you will? And what are some of the first 2 things that must be done to establish quality relationship between white and non-white people, if you will?
Well, the 3 T's, called the tragic arrangement, are tacky, trashy, terroristic. Now, this is the arrangement that non-white people on this planet have with white people in their everyday interactions in all areas of activity.
Tacky,
trashy, and terroristic. One of the 3. It doesn't get any better than tacky. If you will observe black people, for instance, in the presence of white people, on account of the way that both of them are raised within the system of white supremacy, there's a strain there. There's not a even flow. So what you have is a tackiness. It doesn't get any better than tacky. It can't get any better than tacky within the system of white supremacy.
Why?
So this is all very tragic. Well, because the system of white supremacy demands that white people interact with non-white people in a certain way that is harmful and harsh and overall destructive. And that the non-white people interact with the white people in the same manner. And they are taught this. Both people
are taught this
at a very early age, and then the teaching goes on every day in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
All areas of people activity.
All of the areas of people activity everywhere in the known universe.
I noticed something. I used to work with a gentleman, elderly gentleman, and whenever he would come in contact with white people, he always had a tendency to have to be the entertainment committee to make everybody laugh. If we were on the elevator or doing something in the building, he was always the person to make white people laugh. He was always.
I'm so glad he said that, because I was talking to my man about this. I was like, why do black people always have to be funny? Like, I'm not against a joke and all that. I just found that us being the entertainment, us being the jester in the room, us being the jester on the television program. Heck, even when there's Black people in the news, us being the jester is like the role white people are comfortable having us in. And it pisses me off every time I flippin' see it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject. We have about 4 more minutes of this, and then we're gonna get the live started.
Was the clown. He always kept a straight face, so he thought something was wrong with me.
Yes, well, you can tell that there's a strain even on college campuses and whatnot, and in schools. The people will go to the classes together because that's where the classes are. That's where the teaching is. And then the students will separate themselves in the lunchroom. Now, there's a reason for that. And the reason is not healthy. It shows that something is completely out of order. Because if the people are sharing the same classroom and learning the same things and having the same values that are taught in that classroom, then why do not the people interact with each other in all of the areas of activity without exception in harmony?
Well, maybe the same thing. But
yes, that is it. Under the system of white supremacy, a Black student sitting next to a white student is being taught how to be a victim of white supremacy. The white person, the white student, is being taught how to be a white supremacist.
And it's all in
this
the
is
language.
done in the language, in the use of the words, in the subject matter of the materials, if the material in any way relates to interactions between people. Now, the other two T's, trashy. If you try to improve on the tackiness, then it gets trashy. The interactions between, for instance, you can say that in the area of religion, Sunday morning, Black people and white people do not attend the same churches.
Dr. King says the most segregated hour in America.
Right. Now, that is tacky, particularly in the area of religion. It should not be. The two people should come together in religion, if in nothing else. It would seem logically speaking. But under the system of racism, since the basic teaching of the white supremacy system is that white supremacy is a religion, so you have a built-in barrier
already
against Black people and white people sharing the same premises and preaching the same gospel and talking about loving each other and treating each other with justice. So therefore, you can't have what you call Black people and white people in the same religious setting, which is why you don't have it. So what you do have, and I'd like to add this, is the trashiness that goes on the same Sunday morning. And that is maybe in the houses of prostitution, in the houses of dope dealing. Then you will have Black and white together.
That's the only
same day
place
on Sunday.
Wow, that's interesting that you would say that, because you have these two groups, and we both say we're Christian. We have white Baptists, then we have Black Baptists, and we're supposed to be worshiping the same God.
Yes, one in Christ, they often say. And that is something that not even many Black people care to explain. That they say we are, in Christ there is no east, no west, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yet, the Black people and the white people cannot sit down in the same bench in a church.
I find it interesting, speaking of religion, that you could have Billy Graham come to town and all the Black ministers start bowing down. Minister Louis Farrakhan comes and there's controversy.
Well, that is because of the race issue.
As well.
It's always because of the race issue. You can't do anything. You can't straighten out anything in religion or any of the 9 areas of activity without first eliminating racism. And here again, there's only one functional form, and that is white supremacy.
What should be used as a role model for replacing white supremacy?
The role model for replacing white supremacy should be a code of thought, speech, and action, not a person, never a person. And that also applies to producing justice throughout the world, which justice has never been produced, as far as anyone who is existing now knows anything about. We don't know what justice would be like. We don't know what peace would be like. You never had it. So in the process of producing justice, you need a role model, and that role model has to be a prescription. Some ministers have said in the beginning there was the Word. Now that certainly applies also to straightening out race problems. You have to have the words. The words are not correct. Hardly any of the words are correct. The words are designed to support racism. And this is why you have the confusion you have in the schools.
Deceit.
Yes, the deceit. See, the words are designed to support deceit, which is the basic tool of the white supremacists.
So I want to just pick up at the end of that clip where he says the words are designed to support white supremacists. Vonda, that was Neely Fuller Jr. And I want to pick up there. The words are designed to support white supremacy. My man and I were kind of playing because he's not here at the house with me. And so last night we were kind of playing around and he wanted something and I didn't give it to him. He's like, "You're canceled." And I was like, "Take it back." And he was like, "No, until you do what I want, I won't take it back." And I said, "Don't white male me." And he said, "White male?" He was like, "Well, that's clever. You're not canceled anymore." But my point is that the words are meant to support white supremacy. And so today we are going to be talking about words. We're going to be talking about a word in particular, and that is integration versus separation via the word individualism. And so I'm going to give my premise, and then I'm going to let my guests chime in as far as how they see it. So for me, this is what I see, okay? I see that individualism is something that is heavily pushed in the Western world. Now, the problem with this is, just like Neely Fuller Jr. was saying, words are designed to support white supremacy. And often our understanding of those words is different. So a word will have one meaning to white people and another meaning to Black people. Nyla pointed this out in one of her lives. She said Black people use the word coon in one way, white people use the word coon in another way. In the same way, white people use the word individual in one way, and when Black people use it, we mean it in another way, and we utilize that word and we express our actions with that word. So what I mean is this: when white people say that they are an individual, they truly do mean like, I'm a unique person, but when they move as a collective, right? They do things collectively while maintaining their individuality. When a Black person says that they are an individual, what they are essentially saying is that they want to be separate from the greater body of Black people. So we'll see a lot of Black people move out of the Black community and claim individualism. We'll see Black people who are highly conservative, and they'll claim individualism. And a lot of times this manifests itself by them attacking Blackness, attacking other Black people, and all of that. And so when we consider that, then we realize that it is actually supportive of the prospect of racism and white supremacy. So I was watching another YouTuber who I'm not going to name here, a Black YouTuber who is heavily conservative. He considers himself an individual. And he was speaking on the ad that recently came out with them portraying in slavery times a white man and a Black woman, a Black slave, running off to be together. And in his talking about this, he started to basically minimize what was done by Harriet Tubman. And sort of isolate himself from the greater Black narrative. And that is how individualism plays out when Black people do it. Jesse Lee Peterson is another example. When Blacks practice individualism, it is their way of being like Highlander, right? There can only be one. So it's their way of saying, I am, for example, I'll use myself, I am Irene, right? So I'm not like those other people over there. They may look like me and we may all be Black, but I'm different. I'm Irene, and they're totally separate, and I abhor and dislike everything about them. And I am more like you. And that's where the integration versus via separatism comes in, right? They integrate with non-Blacks by separating from other Black people. And in the Black community, we're the only people that practice this. We don't see this practiced in other communities. When Asians integrate with whites, they still maintain their culture. They still maintain them being Asian. If anything, white people try to integrate into that, their white partners or their white coworkers, things like that. They become fascinated with the exoticness of being Asian. When Hispanics integrate into white culture, they keep their, well, they're white. Now, mind you, you guys know I think Hispanics and Asians are white. They keep that individualism, and they still manage to not separate from everybody. Hispanics don't suddenly refuse to speak Spanish because they want to be accepted by white people. And so but that's different than what Black people do. We feel the need to diminish everything and slice every connection and sever every tie that we have with Blackness when we are functioning as individuals. So that's the premise that I'm going to start with. And then later on, I'm going to bring in another premise, which is when we practice individualism collectively. I know that sounds oxymoronic, but we do it. So with that said, I don't know if Sin's off our call yet. BMT, do you want to speak on where you stand on that? Or do you agree with my premise, or do you feel something different?
Well, it's no secret. Everybody knows that I'm a Black conservative, and some things I agree with, some things I don't. When it comes to being Black individualism, let's be fair that for the vast majority, a lot of Blacks, no man has betrayed and done more harm to the Blacks than his own kind. I mean, the white girl literally was painting on a mirror of Nipsey Hussle while other Blacks were laughing. But then they turn around and say, oh my gosh, woe is me. I can't believe a white woman did that to us. And I'm like, you Negroes watched her and did nothing. But then you cry and say that y'all were helpless. So you'll tell other Blacks that they should be mad, but you didn't do nothing. I find that very interesting. That's like throwing a rock, but then turning the other way. You would rather other Blacks take the fall, but you step to the side and say, "Oh, well, not me. I ain't losing my freedom." But see, that's the issue. That's that individualism where we have it where some they want others to risk and put their lives on the line, and they use talking points of "we shall overcome." But then I'd be like, well, let's see you put up something to sacrifice. If you're not putting up anything to sacrifice, you can't talk to me because it got to be even across the board, you know? And like I said, for a lot of Blacks, I'm not going to lie, we're not all equally yoked. We would like to believe so, and we would like to talk so, but the Negro American, the Black American, does not like seeing others, for the most part, in an assortment of authority. He feels some type of way. Why should you be leading me? And if you're leading me, then I could do it better than you. You see, you don't. That's a problem. That's a big issue that we got, because you don't know what that man did to get to that level, and rather than you try to find out how you can assert him from his power, why not watch what he does and then take to it? If you can take to what he's doing and recreate that same power structure, that's true power. But we don't respect Black authority. We don't. And for those who have the old guard, as I want to call it, because let's be for real, when we look at a lot of our talking points come from Blacks of the old. And the thing about it was, the ones that we talk about that have did the sacrifice are long gone. But the people that carried on their namesake and their legacy, they're not carrying it as if they carry it as a religion that we have to honor. But they don't actually sit by and actually stand by them talking points. Just like Al Sharpton sitting down, sipping tea and fried chicken and hot sauce and with that white man. But then they'll tell us that, oh, wait, y'all blacks, this is the man we need to vote for. Hold up. You're telling us to vote for a gay white man that wants a black chief fired. You see that's that hypocrisy. This is why, as a black man, if I do my study, I'm like, oh no, I can't get with you niggas, because you'll tell me to follow behind that holy man, and y'all will follow him like blind sheep. You don't do your research. You don't question things. If a man gets up there with a Bible, you believe it so openly, so freely. If a woman says, hey, I'm your queen, y'all say, oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, I don't do that. I like to free think. We used to be able, that was the one thing we did fight for, to be free thinkers, freedom writers. So that means we had to go study. So that's why, as a black individual, as I count myself as, I don't take to just anybody's talking points. I listen. That's why I don't mind coming on panels and talking with y'all. You know, mind you, times where I have tried to reach out to brothers and sisters that saw me differently. And you remember that time when they found out I was a black Republican? What did they all do? You know, Irene, they all attacked me. Just because I was different or I was of a different background, they started calling me sellout, coon, and everything. But I'm like, hold up, brother. But then y'all not too long ago did a talking point on we need to work together. But just because I'm different from you, you know what I'm saying, don't mean I got to have the same talking points like you.
So I wonder, like, so are you trying to say, I think there is an ostracizing, because I've actually been called a closet Republican. I've actually had this because I have a lot of conservative viewpoints.
Right.
Even though I'm not a Republican, not even in the least. The Republicans and Democrats are both trash to me.
That's
but
fine.
With that said, I feel like it's one thing, you know, for Black people to hear somebody that has a more conservative viewpoint, which is interesting because Black people, we are very conservative, whether we all collectively realize that or not, like we are conservative compared to other groups of people. But don't you think that sometimes Black people who want to feel accepted by the wider non-Black society feel that they have to make a very clear message and statement that I am not like other Black people. And so when they say they're an individual, it is synonymous with them actually saying, I am not like other Black people. I am different from other Black people. All those other Black people do this. And I think all that stuff is awful and horrible. And I am not like them. I am just me. I know I look Black, but I'm not actually Black in the cultural sense. I'm not actually Black in my behavior. I'm not actually like all those Black people you may think about. I'm a special kind of Black person. And therefore you can feel comfortable having me in your space. Isn't that, like, more honestly, the majority of Black people who claim to be individuals? You know, I would argue that's the majority of what they're really saying.
I don't know. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, Irene. That's kind of like, it's kind of on the sense. Yeah, okay, I'll go with you on that one. I'm gonna go fair with you on that one, because a lot of the Black narrative stereotypes were put on us, but they were not of our own. Let's be for real. I remember you made a comment. Why do Blacks have to be? Why do Blacks come off as being funny? Well, now for me as a Black man, whenever I get around, you know, women or other people, mind you, it was told to the press that as a Black man, I am a predator. I'm dangerous. So they're more likely to pull out a gun on me. Now, some people say, oh, Joe, that's you being a coward. No. Why can't I want to live? So me cracking a joke and making people feel easy, sometimes a laughter in the room goes a long way than you mean mugging everyone. Mind you, when I get around my black brothers most of the time, you got to say it with your chest and look them in the eyes like a man. And you got to have that facade that, yo, I ain't no punk. Now, why the hell I got to be like that? Why the hell I got to be like that around every black man? And I know every black man can't throw hands like me. I say, yo, brother, calm down. You don't got to come with that type of energy. You just got to just talk to me. Oh, no, I know, bro. Just talk to me. We got nothing to prove right here. We're still men. I don't see you soft. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to talk to me and tell me that, yo, I'm having a bad day at work, or my girl and me had this issue. It's okay, bro. Just talk. So that way, whatever you got going on. But see, as black men, we're told that I got to hold that kind of stuff. So that type of mindset that's put onto the black man narrative, for some of us, we're like, I can't go by that type of shit, because that type of mentality nowadays is holding a lot of us back.
But I would argue, honestly, that, okay, so part of that could be true, but I feel like part of, just to speak to the first point you made about being funny around non-blacks because you want to disarm them. You don't want them to, there's like an intimidation factor there, so it kind of softens it. But I would argue that the same reason that you feel that you have to cut the ice in that way with non-blacks is the same reason that a lot of black men might feel that they have to toughen themselves around black people, which is that there is the perception that our men are innately aggressive. And then the other thing that I want to throw out there too is that, don't you feel like it's a slippery slope, right? Because, and I find this a lot with black conservatives, and you guys in the chat, you can tell me if you think this is true, because like I said, I'm very conservative leaning. And whenever I do conservative commentary or political commentary, I really had to change the way that I presented my commentary, because it would attract a lot of white people because I'm conservative. And the popular thing now is to hear black people with conservative talking points. But the thing is this, they quickly dislike you, right? And I quickly lost my white following when I was not willing to do what I was saying that other brother did here on YouTube, which was, for example, just drag Harriet Tubman and co-sign them acting like, blacks and whites were just running off into the sunset to be in love together during slavery. I would never co-sign something like that, and I would never try to diminish Harriet Tubman out of all people and say white people, it was their homes that were part of the Underground Railroad, and way more whites were doing it than blacks, so white people should get credit. I would never make that my talking point like that black man did. But see, here's the thing.
Agreed.
When you start to go down that slope of doing the dance, then you start to have to say and do things that then are undermining to the rest of black people so that you can maintain your quote unquote individuality.
Okay, that's fair. No, that's fair. And no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Irene, because like I said, when I talk from my platform, they know I'm talking from the black man of the conservative family perspective. We all know that. So, yeah, I was trafficking whites onto my platform, but also I had to check them. I even stopped a few shows, say, yo, this is a black safe space for all my brothers and sisters. You're not going to come on here, disrespect us. Sometimes, in our chat, we got to catch the N-word and kick them out immediately. We got to let them know, like, hey, I'm not dropping my black code. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to drop that. And that right there. But see, that's part of the individualism of being a conservative for me, is that I have to protect my blackness, even if it means from other blacks that will turn it against me or try to say, you're not black enough. And we're not going to pretend like, as some black individuals, they don't attack us, just like the whites. But it only hurts more when the blacks do it, because you're trying to show that, hey, if I make it in, I'm not trying to keep you out, brother. I'm just trying to show you can get in too. I remember everybody called Tiger Woods a sellout, but then all of a sudden, what pops up? A video of Tiger Woods as a kid saying that, hey, if I win the PG Tour, this will show that other black people can win too. So they're like, whoa, I didn't know Tiger thought like that. I thought he had something against blacks. No, he was talking like that since he was a kid. But they look at what he's doing, but not the message of how he's trying to get it across. Sometimes, and I mean, I know it sucks, man, but for the forerunners who have to go into the battlefield, it's not always pretty on trying to win the battle. You know? But some of us got to take on those talking points, even if we're looked at as the bad guy. And I understand that. Sometimes I used to battle against George, but I'm like, why does he talk like that? And that type of secular mind. But then when I started listening, I said, yo, George is a goddamn conservative father man. He just had different talking points. He's different from me. Same thing like Taz. Taz is a father too. And so am I. So then I had to understand that, yo, we got 3 individual talking points of men in the homes. We're not the same, but actually down to the root, we do have the same talking points of being men in our homes. So I don't like it. That's why it's hard sometimes, because no black man is fully going to be accepted wholeheartedly into the black community. We need to drop that narrative. I'm not going to appease all of y'all, and I'm not going to try to. You can kiss my ass. But I am going to speak my truth as a black man, whether you choose to accept it or not. I'm not about to get up here and pull out chicken and hot sauce and go off of stereotypes, you know? But also I'm going to speak my truth on what I know as a black man. That's the problem. Yeah, we got to go in front of white people. And yeah, sometimes you got to put on that face. If you don't have to, that means you're at a space in your life where you don't have to do that. But until you get to that proper position, you need to learn how to play the game until you're in that proper position in the system. I hated that we shame blacks that, oh man, you sound like a white boy. Well, then why can't I just be an educated black man? Or just sound like I know how to speak with proper education?
Rozzy, you're a trip, Rozzy. Rozzy said, where the hell is Cynthia G? Cynthia is taking a phone call. She's talking to somebody. Gio, it's not that he's speaking rude, but he is speaking from a conservative black standpoint, and he is speaking on his methodology, how he views individualism. And he's saying that there's a limit to how far he'll go, but then like some stuff is, you got to play the game, and it just is what it is. But I will say this, because Gio, you did make another really good comment. You did make another really good comment, and that was that if you talk proper, then black people will say you're talking white, and that the underlining message there is that white is right. And I just have never heard somebody present that way, but I think that is actually a good analogy. Now, with that said, yeah, I don't think he's talking rude either, Kylo. But what I will say is this. I will say that there is a level of reward that you get when you do things that are anti-black from white people. I remember when I saw Candace Owens speak, and we analyzed that private meeting here on YouTube. I did it on my channel. She started with degrading her own mother. Before she even popped off with her speech, y'all, if you haven't seen that, you really need to go back and watch my video on Candace Owens. She started with putting her own mother down for like 5 minutes before she could move on to her political talking points, because she was in a room full of rich white people. My most lucrative live stream ever on this channel was lucrative because there was a Jewish man who donated maybe like $150, like just from his own pocket, because he was happy to see 4 Black women up here who were not getting along. It's like one of the only live streams I've had like that. I fell asleep during it because I had started it like just up on no sleep. And then I was like, I haven't been asleep all night because I can't sleep without my man. So, you know, and he's not here. So let's start a live stream. And then I fell asleep during the live stream. It ended up being highly lucrative. And I know that this Jewish man goes to other channels. And as long as Black people are fighting, I will see him in the chat donating $25 here, $50 there. He loves it. He loves it. He loves it. The other day, he called it the purge. He literally super chatted something about the purge. And only because he's donated to me before. And I thanked him for his donation before I realized who he was and I found out who he was. Now I recognize him when I see him, but I've never seen him donate to something that's productive between Black people. And so that is like the slippery slope. It's like, as long as you are degrading. And I think a big part of individualism with Black people, not necessarily you, BMT, but a lot of that individualism with the Black people, it manifests itself by degrading other Black people. So we have the Jesse Lee Petersons of the world, and I know you guys can think of a lot of names. We don't have to put them all in the chat, of people that we see even just right here on YouTube or on major media, and they, in order to get their in with non-Blacks, they spend a great deal of their time dragging their own people. And they always wear the individuality card. So that's why I said Black individualism is their way to integrate via separating from all the rest of us. But their separation does not stop with merely trying to disassociate themselves. Their disassociation takes the form of actual attacks against like Black people. And I think that is where, and I mean, I can see the benefits of choosing to be individualistic, but, you know, I feel like what good is the individualism if the underside, you know, the underbelly of that is that you're essentially going to have to make the bulk of Black people look bad in comparison to you in order for that integration to happen. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying, and sad but true. It's no different than how just what you're saying is just like the same thing like Steve Harvey was telling Monique. You know what I'm saying? He said he put on a monkey suit for $4 million. You know? And that right there was impactful for the white people who were sitting in the crowd. They were laughing. You know? I see the talking points of those type of things. I understand it. And the thing about it, the sad thing about it for individualism is that blacks for a long time, they have never been in no power. They never had no power. So when I see it, and I'm speaking from the ex-millennial, I was never given power by blacks. So I had to go restructure and build my own type of power. You understand what I'm saying? And if that means I have to go my own way, I would have to be that individual separate from my community. Now, some people will say, well, Joe, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Because if that was the case, if the power is not there in my community, then I'll go elsewhere where I can go get power. And I did a talk about that. And a lot of young black people, they understood what I was saying. They don't we're going to be for real. What power is in the black community like that?
But here's the thing. It's sort of like, okay, you know, like if you're in the middle of a war, right? And you've gone to a side. And I think this is what, and again, I'm not speaking about you directly, but I'm just speaking about the wider idea. So let's say we're in a war and your side is winning. And somebody comes from the opposition and they're like, hey, I'm going to side with you, you know, and they're coming over, not because they like you better per se, But maybe they like you better because they see you're winning. You're never going to really embrace and trust that person because you're going to recognize that they're a traitor. And you might utilize them for whatever good that they are, but you're always going to recognize at the end of the day, they're not one of you. And they jumped over from their side to come to your side. And that was a traitorous move. And so my argument would be, and I've heard this when we talk about struggle love and, aligning ourselves with like Black people that have nothing and all that stuff. My thing is the solution not to build up your own community and your own people and take the power and create what needs to be created? Or do you simply jump fence to the side that's winning because your side is losing? And here's the thing. When we look at the side of the fence we're jumping to, when they had nothing, living in, throwing their piss and their poop into the streets and, having whole countries infested with disease and over there, basically, dying and eating food with no salt, because they didn't really have it. They didn't go off into the world and start to try to jump the fence on somebody else's side. They went off into the world and they created and took control of what other people had that was making them great, and then further uplifted themselves. But the attitude of those conquered people is not to do the same for themselves, but to just jump fence over to the conqueror's side because they're doing better. And why would you stay in a situation with people who aren't doing better? Do you follow what I'm saying?
And what power do Black people really gain in other communities? They don't gain power. All they're doing is gaining isolation from their own people. But when they go to other communities, they don't get power. And if they do, I would like to know what that power is.
I think maybe it's sometimes that people feel like being a small fish, right, in a pond of people that you think are your superiors, even if they only let you be their footstool, even if they only let you be their lapdog, some people feel that position is like a better positioning than to be the greatest that they can be, the best that they can be in their own community. And I think a lot of our people have that attitude. Like, I would rather be the lowliest of lowest around a bunch of non-Black people than I would be the biggest and the best amongst Blacks, because they just have an overall negative look at Blackness. And so they start screaming, I'm an individual, to go be that lapdog in that other community.
I was watching a movie that I really do enjoy it, Hidden Figures. Y'all saw that movie, correct? And
no, I didn't.
Really, it's a really good movie. It's with Taraji P.
I didn't see it either.
I encourage you ladies, go watch the movie. If none of y'all saw it in the chat, go watch Hidden Figures. It talks about 3 Black women who went to NASA, and they were the secret why NASA was able to get to the moon, because they were doing, Taraji P pays the Black woman who was doing the calculations that allowed the spaceship to break gravitational velocity, which that's really big. Like, that Black woman, she played Miss Johnson. That's how smart she was. She was doing calculation at that level in her head. Despite the way how white people were treating her, she played the game until after a while they could not refute what she was doing. And then when they did buck at her, she said, yo, y'all made me walk half a mile in a dress just to go take a piss. The other Black woman, the other two Black women, they were dealing with their own struggles, But I remember when Janelle Monáe, she said it to the white judge. She said, sometimes to be the first, you're not going to get respected, but somebody got to do it. Now, the thing about it was, and that's why I encourage y'all to go see it. It's a really good educational and inspirational film for Black people. And the thing about it, that as I watched that film, I started to understand that when she was a baby, when she was young, everybody in the community recognized this girl is smarter than everybody in the town. They literally gave her parents the money to leave the black community to go to another community where she could go get that education. She didn't go to a white community. Well, I think it was like some type of school. I forgot. But it was more so to go see her flourish. So that way she could do the math. But she was smarter than the teacher at a young age. And that's something that, again, just like for when I talk, and sometimes we've been called white, or those are white talking points. Or maybe that's just at the level of education or smart that, you know, that black person is right now. Not every black person is on the same pool. And that's the thing about it. We're not putting the brothers or sisters that actually have the capacity to probably shoot forward and get things done. We're not actually saying, hey, let me endorse you, but make sure when I'm endorsing you, you make sure you speak my talk point. If I'm endorsing you, if I'm endorsing Sin to go to this school and I'm funding her, see, that's the thing about it, what other countries do. They make sure that they make sure they get one of their kids out of that damn village to go get somebody else. So that way they can have 2 to 3. But now the thing about it is, I'm not going to lie. If you're not paying me and I'm doing it by myself, I don't owe you shit. I'm sorry. That's not rude to say because you didn't believe in me to put the money in me. So when I got to where I am, and some people say, well, Joe, that's jealous. Is it really? Because how can I tell Sin or you how to do your house and I didn't put no money up for you to go get your house built? That's hypocritical. But we're quick to throw stones at the person who stayed up all night and day and built their house and their foundation and say, hey, I'm down on my luck. You need to help me out. You need to put me on. No, Negro, because when I asked you to come over here and help me, you refused to come up here and help me build my house. So now on my terms, you can come in. On my terms. And we're not going to pretend like that don't happen in other African countries, but we're talking about Black America. And in Black America, some people invest, and then there are, and those brothers and sisters, you hear them when they get on stage. I like to thank my mama because my mama supported me. And I like to thank this person because they did for me. They'll call out the people that they remember that did for them. But they don't come back to that area that didn't do for them. And for those who do go back, they don't get the same type of treatment because we watch brothers who did try to go back, NFL brothers who did go back, and they did not cherish them enough to say that, hey, man, let us actually take some of your money and make it a little business and just use that. So you don't value something if you don't put the money into it. And that's a big deal that we got going on. It may not be the best business, but it's your business. But we don't push those type of dialogue about investment. I watch black shows where you'll have a black man like Erica Williams. Erica Williams talks about real estate and investment, and she gets no type of play. Versus you might have a sister talk about some stuff that's negative talking points about black people. She'll get all the goddamn play in the world. But you rather not listen to the one that's talking about how we don't want to play to Erica Williams about how they talk about how to get real estate, business, she's buying semi trucks and shit. But we'll play that sexy thought logic and stuff. And I'm like, damn. So what does that mean? If you don't respect that one, how you gonna respect me?
No, that's true. She does come over there with some really solid stuff, and her shows are like, you know, they get like no airtime, but like that stuff, and happy to help people too. Like not just talk about it, but like you could call me and I'll help you do it. Like, you know, you can be your own business owner. You can, you know, make money. We'll show you how. We can open that door for you. And when somebody's like literally on there offering you basically a job, being self-employed, like offering to help you change your life, she does not get a lot of shine. And I agree. George Macon is like another one who has amazing content, but people aren't there for the amazing content. I know that's the same thing, you know, on my channel. it's just very information forward. So the more information,
Yeah, because you go over really interesting and much needed stuff.
but everybody doesn't want to sit there for an hour and read a document.
And these are the documents that they actually should be reading.
So I can understand what he's saying to some extent about, moving to where the value is, or if you're intellectual, wanting to, move your children into a community where, they're going to be able to have that nourished. But the problem is that the
The
way,
white communities, and they don't value Black people.
thank
So I
you,
don't know
right,
why we
right.
would be attaching that to it, but
Right. A big part of that person dies. And at the end of the day, you cannot deal. I'm gonna say this at the risk of giving Cynthia fodder for her fire. I've told this story before. Being a Christian, when I was in Texas, I went to a church and the white people there were totally fine with me, but I went to sing a song. I sang a song out of the Bible in the church, and they said I sounded like the world, which what they meant is I sound like a Black woman singing, right? And when I tried to say it might be cultural, or it might be this, or it might be that, or literally like in no uncertain terms, like you guys are literally just saying this because I'm Black, and I can prove it by singing in an old hymn by Black people just to show that this is how we sing and it's not evil. She completely turned on me, like the pastor's wife completely turned on me. And so at the end of the day, this is like, that is the reality of trying to play the individualism and integration game with white people, is it is all good as long as there is no challenge there, which is why the brother I was talking about, first of all, he should have just left that whole commercial alone. But that's why he felt the need to diminish Harriet Tubman for the sake of pleasing the white people that pay him money and are his, the majority of his fan base. And so that is the double-edged sword, is that when you pull the individualism card, what you're really signing yourself up to do is one day have to compromise yourself, or realize that you're not going to be able to integrate with them.
I wouldn't even call it individualism, because individualism means you set the standards for yourself and nobody is really influencing that. What they're doing is they're assimilating and they're compromising their Blackness in exchange for a false sense of approval from white people, because we all know if they didn't ostracize their people, if they didn't separate and isolate themselves from their people, if they actually were over there being apologetically Black, they wouldn't be over there, because white people don't value that. They don't tolerate that. So even if a Black person does come over there with intelligence, success, and credentials, they're still not going to be valued. Actually, for a lot of white people, that's going to cause envy, because they don't think Black people should have what they have, and they don't think that they should have access. So if they see you over there with a nice car, nice house, whatever, that will cause a lot of envy in a lot of white people. But I'm not understanding, where are these alternate communities where Black people go where they're valued?
Okay. So you want to know where are the alternate communities that Blacks can go where they're valued, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we talked about that yesterday on the Taz Rumble. There's communities such as Silver Spring, Maryland.
But are these Black communities, or
Yes.
are these non-white communities?
No, these are Black communities.
Well, Black people are gonna value other Black people, but typically when Black people say they're individual and they leave the community, they're going to white communities. They're not going to Black communities.
Okay. So you want to talk about the singular Black person, or the Black person who says, "Listen, I'm going off and I'm going to just build my own community," because that's the thing about it. That's the only thing about it, Cynthia, that there are Blacks like myself and my mom included. We've gone off and we've bought real estate property and we've done our own things. I didn't have to go.
Yeah, but y'all are the exception, though. Y'all
Okay.
are the exception, not the rule.
Okay. Now, I agree with you. Some people do become the token Black men. I feel they will tuck their Black. But then when I do set them to the side and I said, hey, You know, I'm not gonna lie. Why did you allow your girlfriend to say nigga? Oh man, it's just a word. But you know how that word, you know how that word, it has power. Oh man, you sensitive? I'm like, you forget that word at one point could have got you killed. A nigga touched me. That was it. It got a mob. It got a whole mosh pit. So, you know, I get you what you're saying that, but see, this is when I throw this right back towards the black group. What protection do you offer the black individual to come and want to be under you?
But
Because
more than the white community is going to provide you. That's for sure.
say you're not protected in their community. But I will say this, because Razi said, in order to get accepted from white folks, you have to forget about black issues and forget about the fact that you're black. And that's so true, because I wanted Brother Sanchez to do this panel because he's an integrationist, and I would have loved, and I respect him a great deal. Like I love him, but I wanted him to come and share his voice because I knew it would be the opposite of what anybody else would say. But I was on his panel.
He's also a swirler, though, so of course he's an integrationist.
He's also a swirler. That's right. And so I was on his panel, and of course on his channel, it's very mixed, right? And there was a white boy on his panel. And so we're having this conversation, and I'm like, ultimately, white people started this race thing. You know, white people did X, Y, and Z, and that's just a historical fact. And the white dude goes, well, we don't really know who started the theory of evolution. And I was like, am I the only person going to call this out? Like, your people are literally
right, because we don't need to know who did the theory of evolution. We know who created the concept of race and racism. Two white men, one of them named Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, and then the other one, I forgot his name. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I forgot it. Like, literally two men set up and created the concept of race and racism. So both of them were white. So we do know, regardless of evolution, they created the race situation, though.
Right.
I think
the thing is that
one of them like a white
integration game, we have to let a white dude sit there and say stuff that is blatantly bullshit. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, now you know damn well your people are claiming this. Okay, like, so let's not sit here and act, well, we don't know, and let's not play the who did what first and who did what when. Like, let's just all move past that. And I'm like, when you're on the side, now you may not feel that way, but the thing is, I can't even deal with white people who aren't going to be honest. Do you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, the coolest white person will literally turn on you if you force them in a position to be honest. And they're not trying to have that. What they're like is, let's ignore it. And as long as you're comfortable with ignoring it and pretending like there's just nothing to see here, then you can be cool. But the minute the conversation comes and some honesty has to come into that conversation,
right,
it's a problem.
White people hate honesty. So, but the fact that Sanchez sat up there and let him get away with that tells you where he stands. It tells you his mindset. And so he's not only divested physically, he's divested mentally too. And that's why I say it's really not in the individuality. It's nothing new. This is historically what has been happening with Black people who seek to assimilate. And like, how will we even be able to say that assimilation is somehow individual? It's like the people who say, oh, I'm a free thinker, but all they do is regurgitate white supremacist talking points. It's like, that's not you being a free thinker, you're parroting.
Now so let's look at that, because when we talk about Black power, or I like to always look towards the Black power, I would ask, what has the Black power as of late done for the Black man or Black woman or Black community?
Because there's no real Black power. BMT, okay, there's no real Black power. Really.
Okay, so when we say that, so this is the thing about it, and this is why, you know, we're hitting that fact. Let's take out the emotions. I'm not going to fault somebody anymore when they're going out to seek power. Human beings seek
power where? Like, seek it where and how? Like, who are they seeking the power from?
Now, let's be for real. Let's look at it right now. When it comes to as in America right now, the black dollar is not pushing as hard as the Pakistani dollar, the Chinese dollar, the doggone Latino dollar. We're watching the elections starting to happen now. And they're not coming to you black men. They're not coming to you black men. Now they're using victimization devices and they're using talking points. And, you know, I find it very interesting. They use that, what's that bald black woman that looks like EJ? They're using her to say, oh, this is why you should vote for Biden because she's with Obama. And I'm like, ain't that some bullshit?
Did you say the black woman that looked like EJ?
She do. I thought that was EJ. I thought that was Magic Johnson's doggone son.
Yeah,
I
know
why
who
did they grab
EJ is.
Why? You don't know nothing about no damn politics. What's EJ doing up there?
What is her name? I never even heard of her name.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't. But see, that's the thing about it is they grab people to get us to go and follow their devices. Because I'm not gonna lie. Everybody studies the black man, but the black man hasn't yet started studying his enemies. We haven't. And
well, that's why I'm saying, how are they? You can't establish power by assimilating to someone else's group. You can't do that. Like, just like what Irene said, white men came out of the dark ages, exploited the help that they got from the Moors, and they came out of the dark ages and established power, global domination on their own. They didn't do it by assimilating to whatever the Moors were doing. They sought to betray and overthrow the Moors. And the Moors helped, obviously, to do that. So that's how you establish power. Okay. If you're going and assimilating to someone else, you're disempowering yourself because ultimately you're giving up everything that you have by way of that assimilation. So when they can't establish it by going outside of their community, the only possible way they will be able to establish power is by staying in their community.
Now, okay, so I was going to be doing a story later on tonight that just last week on Tuesday, 19 black female judges became judges in Texas, okay, in Harris County. Now, this is pretty big. You know, I also did a story about a black female became a mayor in Chicago. And also the whole female black circuit, a bunch of black women in South Fulton County, Georgia, they run that circuit. So we got 3 areas I just gave y'all about black females running with power.
That's just like saying Obama had power, and we all know.
Hold on now, I get you. Now, I get you about the Obama thing. But however, I would have to say, when you have that power, are you distributing it to help your people? Or are you doing it for, I'm in where I am, so shit, I got me and those in my clique. Because whenever we look at it right now with those 2 women who are Pakistani and Islamic backing, they're speaking for their people in their belief. So they make sure when they had no problem dissing 9/11, you know, and that stuff, whatever that's about, you know, I ain't gonna lie, I felt some type of way about that. But see, they make sure that they cover their people. But then I'm like, damn, so for those of y'all who getting y'all talking points or get to where y'all getting as black people who are higher than us, y'all ain't speaking for me. You don't say a goddamn thing about me. So if you doing for me, then why should I be forced? You see what I'm saying? Like, we get people, just like I just named those 19 women, they get power, but they don't do shit for it to actually back us. Like the black woman who's a sheriff in Texas, she's like, oh, I can't do nothing to that white girl who walked in and shot that black man in his apartment.
Well, she can.
Hold on, man. Come on.
She can. That's not what she's put there for. She wouldn't be in that position because ultimately you're trying to obtain power in someone else's system, and you're not going to do that.
Okay.
Well, the thing is that there is a level, because of the level of pandering to white people that you have to do to get to those positions, you don't get the chance. You don't get to lick the boots, right, of the master. And then when you get to serve a little food on the table, or, you know, get to drive the buggy, all of a sudden have the power to do anything great, because it's always going to be remembered that you licked the boots, because remember, to keep these positions, and I mean, Candace is just such a good example, is why I keep using her, to keep these positions and to keep rising within a system that is controlled by white people, you have to degrade Blacks in some way. You've got to show your allegiance to whites by showing your separatism from Blacks. Once you've done that so many times, there's no doubling back on that. You're no longer in a position. And I think that's why a lot of these people don't do anything when they reach those positions, because they've compromised and they've compromised and they've compromised. And by the time they get anywhere where they could really do good, you're already tainted. You've already gotten acclimated to the idea of compromising and not defending your people and pandering to whites and trying to make yourself acceptable by doing things that are neutral and not doing things that are pro-Black, that there's no way you can do it. That, and like Cynthia said, that's not why you're there, but more importantly, you've already set a pattern. The status quo is that's not the move you're going to make.
Yeah, I don't, because the thing of it is if you understand how this society works, and that's why I brought up Obama, because for Black people, Obama was powerless. But to white people and gays, he had power, because he had power to do what he was allowed to do. And there isn't going to be any Black person who is in white people's system that they created who's just going to come in and have all this power. Like, it's just not going to happen. So that's why I raised the question of which politicians that are Black are really in a position where they have the power to do whatever they want to. And if they don't have, right, and that's the thing, because they're not going to get power that way, because you're in someone else's, it's like trying to go into someone else's house and then talk about you're going to talk about the remodeling that you're going to do in someone else's house. It doesn't work like that. They're not about to allow you to go in their house and remodel it. And so since this is their system, I won't say it's their country, but they sure have established it as their system within this country by way of violence and domination. So you're not about to come in there and make and frame the system the way you want to and establish power in it unless you first disempower them. That's the only thing. And they're willing to die to keep their power.
Okay,
So
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Cynthia. And you see, that's the thing about it, that again, when we talk about I look at it as two systems. There's the individualism power that the person says, listen, I'm fine in my corner. Y'all may not see it like any type of power, but shit, I'm good. I got what's mine. Y'all don't respect it, but I respect it. And that's fine with me. I could care less what y'all think, but y'all didn't get me here. And then there's the group power that we haven't practiced that in a while. So when it comes to it, and I can't lie, we can't use that excuse that, well, the Black man can't get no power in America. But I'm like, well, shit, now how do you explain the people from Ghana that come over here? Like, when I watch them come over here, they start out doing the shitty jobs and they put their kids on to like being like bigger than that. But they don't really, they use the stepping stones of black Americans, but they don't take part in what we've done. They just use our stepping stones. Mind you, when we talk about that Black power, I'm like, honestly, that group Black power as of late, you might as well say the gays bailed out your Black college. Both colleges, actually. So Spelman and Morris have been already compromised. Because honestly, Blacks do not flex any type of power or authority. I mean, we ain't gonna pretend like I mean, when you were saying on the chat one time, you were saying, why didn't any of those Black men run up and help that Black woman in Texas? You remember that? Mind you, now she's looking at being sued. I find that very ironic, but that's just it's like, yo, we'll talk about group power, and group think tank, but nobody wants to make the sacrifice, or nobody actually wants to put the people that could possibly steer us in the proper direction. We don't really respect them people as we should. I don't think we need a singular person to lead us, but I would agree if we had everybody on code, like migrating together. There's not just one geese that knows how to get to the south. All of them know how to get there. They just stay together. But see, it's not like that. They like, well, we got to have this person at the top so that way they can. No, you don't. Because honestly, whenever the Chinese, something happens to them, they go together in a group and do something. They congregate together. We don't do that because we have not been providing that. And you see, that's the thing about it, because we don't lay the groundwork or the bedrock. I remember I talked about us supporting that all black boys school. You know how many black people wanted to get behind Irene when she was talking about that? She didn't get that many views for that. But let it have been something talking about some bullshit, they would have showed up in droves. So when it comes to the important things that we need to be on code about, the black man doesn't want to hear the truth, just like that white man. But he's like, I'd rather keep my head down to the master than actually have to deal with the master. Versus the black man who's looked at as the Sambo, the sellout, who's in the master's house. He gets a warm porridge. Y'all can say, damn, I don't like this analogy, but it's the truth. One gets his ass beat, one sells his soul just to get warm porridge and get treated like a dog. Which one is honestly better than the rest? Neither. But honestly, one said, at least I ain't gonna get beat. The other one saying, well, at least I ain't gonna get looked at as a goddamn cuck slave. You see, that's it's a double-edged sword no matter what. Until we start actually saying, yo, let's go out there to the Middle East, let's go out there to like the Midwest and just go build on our own. It's gonna be hard, but damn it, at least it'll be our own little shit that we got for ourselves. But see, blacks ain't trying to do that with other blacks. So the individual said, I guess I might as well do it alone. And if I find somebody who's not of my ilk, but they rather still build with me, I'll just take what I can get. So go ahead, Sin. I ain't mean to talk too long.
No, I mean, my thing still just stands the same. I'm failing to see how black people would, by taking on this individualistic mentality, which again, it's not individual to me because it's been done before, and all they end up doing is isolating themselves from their people and disempowering themselves. I'm not seeing anywhere in society that black people are going to go and gain some power. They may get a false sense of power. They may be used and given temporary power as puppets for other people's agendas and to carry out other people's agendas. But having some power in this system, no, that's not going to happen because it goes directly against the establishment and white supremacy, which black people having real power is a threat to them. They would never allow that to happen. So I'm still looking for where black people can go as an individual or a group and actually establish some power. I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I just don't think that it's possible in this system. And I think a big flaw that our people have is that we seem to think if we play the game that we will be able to get ahead in the system. And it's so interesting because my man did a radio show a couple nights ago, and one of the topics was the ADOS movement, and that got us talking about Yvette. And I was telling, we were conversating about the live she did where she talked about access to whiteness, and that in theory, she's thinking the way that Italians access whiteness, black people could access whiteness, and that whiteness is not being a literal thing like the color of your skin, but whiteness being a state, right? A political, socioeconomic state. And, I was saying the one really big flaw in her theory is that, the Irish are really white. So they had access to whiteness. They're just a different type of white that's being accepted to a new echelon of whiteness, right? So I don't know that black people have that fantasy, though. They have the fantasy that we can access whiteness, as if whiteness isn't a literal thing when you walk in the room, that somebody will somehow see the accessed whiteness sign over your head and not see the fact that your skin is not white. And I think that is the problem, is that we keep, wanting, and I'm not going to say there's no validity to the idea that whiteness, but see, that pisses me off, even that idea, because I think it betrays the mindset of the thought process. If we think that whiteness is a socio-economic thing and not a race, and it's something that we can access, then we're essentially saying that whiteness is some sort of thing we want to achieve. And I'm pissed off at just the correlation of those things. But I think that she verbalized something that a lot of Black people really think, which is that I can somehow access the positioning, the money, the respect, the power that white people have through making certain moves. And that the key to getting ahead in this society is accessing not the literal shade of white, although some Black people think we have to access the literal shade of white, but not the literal shade of white, but the socioeconomic, what it means to be white, that socioeconomic whiteness. But here's the thing. We aren't the Italians. We are not the Asians. We are not the Hispanics. We are not them. And they have access to quote unquote whiteness because they're white. Like if we put a picture of an Asian, a Mexican, a white person, and a Black person in front of a 4-year-old, and we said which one of these people is different, who is going to get pointed at? And somehow we forget this elementary thing, So yes, there's truths to the socioeconomic thing. There's a level and an echelon you can reach, but what will never allow you, no matter what part of life you're in, to truly access that socioeconomic ideology of whiteness is the fact that your ass is not white. And they will see that before they see anything else. They will see the fact that your skin is Black. And I think that's why so many people essentially really, really, really try to lighten and lighten and lighten, because they feel like the lighter you are, the closer and the more access you can have to whiteness. If I produce light children, yeah, you can go get some. If I produce light children, then they can access whiteness better. Like this is and I think if we're not honest about these mentalities in our community, then we cannot cut that cancer out of our community. But we're ashamed, to say a lot of these things out loud. But shame is not going to get us anywhere.
It really just speaks to the delusion that Black people have, really. And I'm not quite sure how, like, it boggles my mind that we're still caught up in this delusion that somehow that Black people are able to obtain some kind of power or acceptance or whatever by assimilating and calling themselves being individuals when really they're assimilating to whiteness, because it almost means that Black people think that they can speak to the mindset of white people, and clearly you can't, or else why would you still be subjugated to the system if you could just speak to the mindset of white people? It's really delusional to me to think that you're going to come into a system of a group of people who need you to be disenfranchised, to need you to hate yourself, to need you to have the mentality that you have, where you think that you're so delusional that you think you can go into their community and gain their acceptance and approval. They need you to have that. And you think that they're really going to let you obtain some real form of power. And that's why it's needed, Irene, to read documents like the one that you read, where they were talking about how Black men were not a threat to them, and their safety is in them essentially knowing their place and not challenging the structure, because then if they do challenge it, how that will lead to death to them. It's important to go over those things, because this level of delusion that Black people have is really just detrimental. It really is. And furthermore, why would you want to go assimilate to them anyway? Why would you want to go take your individualism over to one of their communities and get their approval? This is why I say the psychology is so, like, our mindset is trash, really, if you think about it.
The thing about it, and I want to hit on this because I traveled outside of the U.S. multiple times, in all times that they see me, they never called me, "You're a Black American." They just said, "You're an American." That's usually what they just call me. They just, "You're a Black American." They see me, see a bunch of us soldiers standing right by each other. They just call us an American. I've had more people walk up faster to me, the Black American, than the white American, because they're more so curious about me, because I get marketed in a different brand. They think if you go to China, they think you can rap, you know how to naturally dance. I don't see them doing Chinese country songs. I see them doing R&B and rap. You can honestly look it up. And the thing about it that I would honestly act a lot of, see, I'm gonna be for real. Like, and this is the thing about it. It's only I see it here in America that we really push this colorism thing so hard. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be for real. Let's not pretend like blacks don't push the caste system of the rich and the poor, who's the stupid and who's the smart. I mean, we literally did this on YouTube for almost a whole month of the Pookie and the educated lame. That was a caste system that we were portraying on each other. Mind you, at the end of the day, everybody else in YouTube just said, "Y'all a bunch of Negroes. What is different?" Y'all literally are saying who's the stupid one, who's the lame one, who's the virgin, who's not the virgin. I was like, wow, are y'all really doing this about who can get the most people in bed? And when we do these type of systems, this is when sometimes for me, I step back and say, I don't want no part. Because I'm to some other black man, I am going to be that Pookie because of how I act. And to some others, I will be that lame because of how I view my people, and how I know that we can be better. I think we understand it, and that's something I'm not gonna lie. That for a lot of blacks, this is when they start pulling away because they're like, why do we always put each other in secular systems where I have to be of a certain narrative? Like a lot of black people, this is why they say like I couldn't find my place in the black community because I didn't want to be put into a certain narrative. Do we as blacks not put each other in narratives? Well, you're too dark. You're light skinned. You sound like a nigger. I mean, we do this more so nasty to each other, and it really does suck. It really does.
I mean, I completely agree with that. I think that that's unhealthy. And we do that to each other. Nobody can deny it. I want to ask you guys a question because Sexy Runa brought up something, and I want to just pose the question this way. Do you think that as ADOS, we can ever access enough money, enough American dollars to equalize the playing field for us in white America? Like if collectively we all just had a lot of money right now, would that do away with the issues we have with the system of white barbarianism?
No, because a lot of black people would just try to pay for white acceptance. They would do exactly what they did during the time when they had businesses, when a lot of them gave up their businesses in order to assimilate. I don't think money isn't necessarily the issue. It's part of the issue, but the mindset that black people have is a bigger issue, in my opinion.
BMT, what do you think? Joe, what do you think? Do you think it's possible for collectively for us to acquire enough money to function with normality within the system?
Yeah, I think it is. It's attainable. You see me on here talk to y'all about micro building. Whereas honestly, people do this stuff all the time. Like, we're not gonna pretend like the Moors and different other people don't go out there, buy some land that is free and say, listen, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna go get my church, my little secular license thing, and I'm gonna just build out here. We'll irrigate our own water, we'll run our own town, and shit. It'll be black on black on black on black.
But black people don't want that though. They don't want that.
You know what the thing about it, Sin? That's the issue. We're trying to take those
I
blacks
know.
that
So
don't want.
money wouldn't stop that though, BMT. If black people had money, all they would do is feel like they can buy their way into white acceptance because that's what they want. If the value isn't placed on blackness, it's placed on obtaining white acceptance, then all you would do is use your money as a means of trying to obtain that.
I have to say, just to give my point of view, I don't think that money will solve the problem. I think that there is validity to the idea that money has a level of power in this system, and so having access to it would give us the ability to do more within the system. But this is what I would say. I would say the two biggest issues here are our mindset. You know what I'm saying? Because if we had the right mindset, Nat Turner had the right mindset, but he didn't have any money. But what he didn't have were enough people that had the right mindset alongside him,
Pause.
right?
Pause.
So I think if as long as we have a poisoned mindset, money won't help us. And I think number two, we forget something that is really, really key, is that although there are Black people with money, let's say the Oprahs of the world, things like that, they are far and few between, and they are in subordinates to white people still. And I think the goalpost would simply be moved by white people so that whatever we accessed would still put us at the footstool of whiteness.
Well,
Because, go ahead, Cynthia.
and he mentioned, which BMT was correct, our buying power. It's not that black people don't have money in their community. It's the fact that black people choose to spend their money in other communities. So we could be building communities now, really, but we're choosing not to. And so we can look at what we do with our money now, and we could predict what we would do if we had more of it, because the mindset is not right. The value is literally not on building black communities. That's why you have the ones who, when they get wealth, they say, oh, I'm leaving the community, and then they go find themselves over in a white community because that's what they want and that's what they value. So the value system and the mindset would have to change in order for money to be of any benefit. All you're going to do is have a bunch of damaged black people who just have more money to try to buy their way into white approval.
I agree with you. I 120% agree with you.
I kind of feel like the microcosm of that, right, brings us full circle back to that individualistic mindset, because we actually see this happen in real life with Black people that have money. So we would just see like the same sort of thing, but like multiplied by the millions in most cases. Because if I say, oh, let the revolution pop off now, people say, well, we don't have an army, we don't have weapons, we don't have this and that. If we got the money to get all that stuff, it still wouldn't pop off, right? Because what we would want to do is we'd want to integrate into a sick society that has always held us at the lowest regard. We wouldn't see that as an opportunity to take control and rebuild a society that was fair and equitable for us, right? We would see it as an opportunity to reposition ourselves within a broken and racist system. And I think if, as long as we would choose the latter, then that's a problem, right? If all we could think to do was how can we position ourselves better within the broken racist system, and then I think that no amount of money could help us, because that's like a man beating me and beating me and beating me, right? And then I finally get a gun and I'm like, oh, this is the equalizer right here. Now we're going to live in this house in peace. Now we're going to sit at this table and you're not going to smack me in my face. I'm not trying to get up and leave. I'm not trying to throw him out. I'm trying to live peacefully with this man in a house because I have the equalizer. And so in our case, the proverbial equalizer would be the money, right? And the money is our gun, and the abusive man is the white man. And so when we get the equalizer, we're not trying to throw him out. We're not trying to, you know what I'm saying, take control. We're trying to peacefully now live in this house with our abuser. And so I think I don't know how healthy that is.
Let me can I take a shot at some of the talking points? And again, this is a really good talk. I feel like this is actually probably the most healthiest talk of two different mindsets. So I don't want nobody to feel like, being teased, feel like he's overwhelmed. I'm not. This is actually just mind you, we're sitting on three different sides. I know I'm the conservative Republican. I know shit, and you honestly think that Cynthia's more the free thinker, atheist. And doggone, we don't know what the hell Irene's at. She's somewhere in the table, but we'll find her. But the thing about it I find interesting about this, when you brought up Nat Turner, before Nat Turner could do his rebellion, what did he do to the blacks that didn't join up with him? He killed them. He said, y'all gonna be a threat. If I don't kill y'all, then shit, y'all gonna side with the white man. Now, I remember there was a comment made about the Man of Tomorrow when he said burn down the community and all that it represents. And it really set off, now mind you, that is something that has been said in the Manosphere plenty of times. Okay. And the thing about it is I hate what the system has made my men and women and children portray and look like. But I hate it more that we participate. It's a very infectious mindset. And for a army to be efficient, you have to understand that if you're not battle hardened, where you're willing to cut those who are not willing to work with you off, this is why white people have been able to kick our black asses, because they don't grab anybody who wants to hear the Negro's talking point. No, they grab those who have a one singular mindset that, listen, it's either we're doing it this way or we just don't fuck with you. Either you're going to go with us or not. That's why when they say the white supremacists, when they teach it in their church that Jesus is white, blue-eyed, and that he is this, you see, he engraves it in his mind. This is why when I say when you build a community, you can't take every Negro with you. You can't. It's impossible, because not everybody wants to be freed out of indoctrination. They don't. So when that comes about when you talk about, listen, to break that mindset, you are going to be an individual yourself. See, that's the thing about it. You're going to be an individual yourself, because that would mean that you're saying, listen, I can't be part of this type of indoctrination where you're willing to accept it is what it is. You accept those terms of surrender. That means you're going to have to start thinking. Mind you, the other people who sided with the other army, they're no better. So you are going to be starting off as a small unit. But see, this is where it comes to, and this is why I like to use Dearborn, Michigan, because they practice micro building so perfectly and beautifully. Where at one time, when you look at the interview, the white people, and I hope we got to do that talk one time, Harry. They literally said, the white people said, at one time, there used to be an all-white neighborhood. Then all of a sudden, we start hearing Sharia law get played all throughout the whole damn town. But what they did, they started buying a building, then another building, then another building. You don't do it all at one night. And see, that's the problem. Blacks want to see it happen right then and now. And that's not how these things work. It takes time. But see, nobody wants to play the patience game. It was started at first. You know what I'm saying? We did have black movements that were starting it in the right direction. But see, I mean, a lot of people drop the ball. They say, yo, I'm not willing to go out there and die for this cause. Nah. They died, but I don't want to die. Shit, we should be able to make this work just as is. So the project was never really finished.
Can I so a few people in the chat, City of Truth said it, and Joe L's kind of expounding on it. There's City of Truth said we could win with capitalism. Joe L said you have to have production and a market for capitalism to work for us. So let me just say something, because I think this is really important. I'm gonna say two things, and that is capitalism on a small scale and capitalism on a large scale. And I'm gonna show you why I don't believe that this is possible. On a small scale, when Blacks tried capitalism in this country and were successful at it, they were literally killed and their businesses were burned. On a large scale, we have the Petro-Caribe deal with Venezuela and Cuba and Haiti. And these are whole countries, right? And then Russia too, because Russia's about the only whites that are willing to deal with all these, Black people and half-breeds and stuff. And do you not see that all of the white people on this earth are currently trying to destroy those countries? They're literally trying to cause a coup in Venezuela. They're too scared to really touch Castro. I mean, not Castro. They're really too scared to really touch Cuba, right? So that's a problem for them. And they're right now massacring people in the streets in Haiti because Haiti had the audacity to jump on board with Venezuela and try to rebuild their infrastructure and create schools and upgrade their medical facilities outside of dealing with fucking Europe and America. And these white people on a global scale have unified to shut this capitalistic move down. They have whole elaborate schemes going on right now. So both on a small scale. So that's what they're doing to whole countries. Okay. And these are not singular countries. This is Guatemala. This is Nicaragua. This is Venezuela. This is Russia. This is Cuba. This is Haiti. And numerous other countries right now that have kicked out their banks, that are playing the capitalism game, and every white person on earth is after them right now. They have unified, and if you guys have been paying attention, these white people have unified under the cause, and the only thing that is stopping them are a handful of liberal whites who are calling them out. And the fact that some of these leaders will openly say that this is racism and that they're trying to cause a coup. The only thing that is like barely stopping them. But trust and believe, if they cannot manipulate, and now in Haiti, they're just killing people in the street because those are just full on Black people. They're literally in Haiti. I have footage of it here on this channel. Just shooting people. The UN has troops just shooting people in the street. So when we talk about all we have to do is be good capitalists, white people don't play like that. We are going to be in a war. Do you not hear what it like? You need to pay attention to how these white people move. Because when we tried it on a small scale in this country, they burned Black businesses, murdered Black men, created laws to make it difficult for us. And when we watch on a global scale, Black people attempting to work outside of the dominant Western society, they go into a whole country and just start killing them in the street. In a literal sense, y'all, this is what's happening right now. So for us to sit here and actually be so completely delusional that we think capitalism is the answer, no, you don't understand how they move. Try capitalism and be successful at it. Some blood is going to be shed. It's going to be yours or theirs if you are any sort of success at it. So do not think that white people are just going to sit by and just watch you take their stuff over through capitalism. Okay, because people are currently trying that and it's not going well for them. There's going to be some wars, okay, or there's going to be some slaughtering. Something is happening, but you see these white people are not just sitting around watching this happen going, look at this, the Petro-Caribe deal. And oh, look at Haiti going to build themselves some schools and, and not fuck with us anymore. Oh, look at Cuba over there. Oh, and Russia's decided to do business with them. Oh, good for you guys. We're so proud of you. You're good capitalists. That's not what they're saying. Okay, that's not the reaction. The reaction isn't a pat on the back for being a good capitalist. The reaction is, how dare you attempt to usurp our authority? And somebody's going to die. And so I think when you deal with barbarians and you think that civility is the way to overcome that, it's like, I don't understand that. Especially when in real life right now, we're watching the white reaction to successful capitalism that doesn't include them. And it's not a positive reaction. So I'm shocked that like this is even the mindset when in real space and time we can see that that's not how they move.
Yeah, I think that even when you're definitely right because you see, it's like in one breath we try to act like we know the mentality of white people, but then we really don't. Because if we think we can do things that is going to be contrary to their success, and there's not going to be any pushback, then clearly we don't know what we're dealing with. We just don't, because we are not understanding that our position in society is tied to their position in society. And they've already shown that they don't care what lengths they have to go to protect their position in society. They will do it. So even when we sit here and talk about capitalism and all of this building money, you can look at how much they practice economic discrimination to see that clearly that they don't believe that that's beneficial to them. So why, even if we were going to do it through capitalism, why would we think they would just sit back and see that happening and not do anything when it threatens their position in society? I feel like we don't pay attention a lot.
Yeah, I think the reality of things is like I don't see how like we can actively see what their reaction is in real life and think that somehow when we do it, it will be different. That's just what I just don't understand that. I'm like, they're not reacting positively, people. Okay. That what they want to do is get rid of Venezuela's, president and take over the oil and the resources in that country. They have like a certified killer. A global hitman that just goes around the world just killing hundreds of thousands of people at a time, like in real life right now. Okay, like
Right, and the thing is, they show what they're willing to do. We're just not paying attention, and that's why I say I'm not understanding it. Like, I'm really not understanding. We just don't pay attention. We walk around oblivious, saying that, oh, money's going to do this and things like that. And it's like, well, it's like it's really not, though. Money is not going to solve the problem. It's actually going to create more problems, because the more wealth the Black community amasses, the more that threatens, white people's position in society. It threatens their power structure in society. So that is going to have to be taken into consideration for anything that we do to elevate ourselves. Unless we really believe that our position in society has no effect on theirs, it just is what it is. Our position is just our position, and then it ends there. Like it's like it just doesn't. We think that it doesn't affect theirs, and it does.
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that we have to come to like a realization. The realization is either going to be we're going to attempt to make our positioning the best it can be as the footstools of white society. Okay, just real talk.
So, okay.
Or we are going to recognize that there's no winning in a rigged game. And that even if we play the capitalism game, it's going to come to a place like it. And I just use Haiti as an example because it is a country full of Black people. They tried to play the capitalism game and they sided with the non-Western civilization. And now they are over there rioting to try to get their fixed leader out of office. And the UN is shooting them in the street as punishment. And the US has an oil tanker off of the coast of Haiti, like a bait, like this could be yours if only you Black people act right. And then on the other side, we have Venezuela, where they're literally trying to drive in propaganda and they are trying to start a coup. So when we think about like I think we have to operate in reality, and I think sometimes the problem and the fight just seems so large that it's like more desirable to just try to get on the best you can in the big house. And I say the blacks in America, we're the worst because we are literally like the house slaves of the world. We are like, you know, the master's pet, you know, the ones that got to sleep in the mistress's bedroom on the mattress on the floor. That is how we are in the United States. And so because we are so comfortable, right? We're like, why would I give up my hot meal and my sleeping spot at the mistress's foot, you know, the foot of her bed? Why wouldn't I just try to get that new dress? You know what I'm saying? See if master won't give me a horse. See if he won't let me grow a little garden out in the back. You know what I'm saying? Let me just see how well I can position myself in the big house. Because a full-on escape from slavery, it just seems insurmountable. And then why would you do it if you know that you can, you know, be a little more comfortable in the big house? And then you can just pretend like you and massa are friends and you got a good massa. You know what I mean? You just pretend. You can just be in a delusion because that is so much more comfortable and safe of a place to be deluded than it is to just face the writing on the wall, which is that if your massa was so nice, if you tried to leave the big house and walk off the plantation into freedom, they wouldn't shoot you in the head. But the reality is we know what it is. We know if we don't play the game, it's going to be violence against us.
And the difference is, Irene, we're not willing to match that violence, and that's a problem as well. Is that we sit here and we make all these plans, but we just don't get it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hey, what's up, twin? I wish you would have come sooner. I told them that I wasn't going to keep them for longer than an hour and a half. So I'm not going to drag this conversation out like any further,
Right.
but I wanted to have it, and I'd like Sin and Joe to like just give their last thoughts. But I wanted to have the conversation because I feel that when we practice individualism as Black people, it is in an attempt to integrate ourselves into a system that we know will never accept us collectively. And so we think that if I work harder, if I prove I'm different than all of them, then I individually can integrate myself into the system, but there's a cost to that. And the cost is that you must abandon your real attachments to the bulk of Black people. And I think that that's problematic. And then that reaches into like the places our conversation has gone, which is that we cannot purchase our way, maneuver our way, you know, buy our way into acceptance into this society. And the only thing that there is for us to do is to unite. It's the only thing that we can do to really, really, truly have a position that is ours. It's to unite and do what needs to be done, just period. And anything less than that is us feeling comfortable at the foot of the master's bed in the big house. That's my personal opinion. That's my final word on it. As Cynthia and Joe, do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Mine is a little bit more indifferent from Irene about, you already know. I'm not all about,
Sorry, I'll let you go, Joe. I was sitting here muted, trying to get myself off mute and hang out with acting dumb.
No, you good. You good there. Now, I'm not going to, I don't believe in the unity thing card anymore. It hasn't been working. It hasn't. And honestly, I would tell you, if you don't find nobody that's not using your same, if people aren't trying to change, again, it's a mindset. And the mindset hasn't really been on one accord for ages. Like, I mean, we're not going to pretend There were even black slave owners. So we're gonna understand that some people wanted the white man's supper, the other people they chose to rebel. So I mean, the black man has never fully been united anywhere. And honestly, the best thing you can do is actually make sure you secure your bag. You can't help a group if you don't got your bag squared away. And some people will say that's selfish, but honestly, this is a doggy dog world. And honestly, we've been trying to play the we shall overcome, but honestly, we look at it right now, we're now being handed the sins of our forefathers. And some of these guys did not really wanted to carry the bag, but they'll tell you that we shall unite. We need, hold on, nigga. You did not want to do it, but now you're telling me I need to do it. And I find that that's to be bullshit. Because if I got to put in the work, I'm going to make sure I get mine, just like you got yours. But you didn't care enough to make sure I got put on to anything. So you're not going to try that talking point to me. That is the issue that we have going on to this day. And that's something that we need to actually talk about, that we're really being disenfranchised about. Only time we come together is, I don't want to use those kind of negative talk points, so I'm not going to, but it beat things up out of our narrative. We don't own not one black, we can't name not one black movement on this panel that is for us right now, that hasn't already been compromised. So any black movement that's already been compromised, but then we'll say, don't go to the white man, then I'll be like, well, damn, who do you side with? You can say side with your own, but shit, your own, they don't, it's a totalitarian type of system. So you don't want to go with the white man, you don't want to go with that one. Shit, I'd rather just be by myself. I'll do for myself, and anybody that fucks with me, hey, that's fine. I think the thing about it is, black man or black woman, you don't need no validation. I don't need no damn validation. Shit, I wake up every day and count my checks. You don't need validation to do what you got to do. You just need to make sure you got yourself squared away. We've been waiting for these black leaders, the caucus, as they want to call themselves. Shit, they talk about putting the illegal immigrants on more than you. Y'all waiting for Bernie Sanders. He don't even back up ADOS. And a lot of these people nowadays, they don't see nothing about you, then you just a nigga. So, I mean, honestly, I tell you, get your bag and get your money. Go to school or go get yourself a trade. If you find a woman that's down for you, get it. But understand this, if they got your back, they'll have your back. If they don't wait on them. That's a problem that we keep trying to tell a lot of our people. Yeah, I agree, separation. It should have been happened. We should have been did the separate game. We keep on trying to pick up. See, that was the best thing Bill Clinton ever fucked us up with. The no child left behind bullshit. When he knew that we had exceptional kids in the classroom that were flourishing and doing a damn thing, guess what happened? Oh no, that kid that isn't participating, that's not trying to actually better themselves, we need to slow down at a crawl for them. That's not fair. That's not right. Because then we're impeding the progress of those who do want to do better for themselves. And I wouldn't tell that to anybody on this panel, that if somebody wasn't putting in the work, that you should slow down and keep on their talking points. Black people are homeless in LA, but immigrants getting jobs and housing. You know, it's fine and funny. That's the thing about black people are homeless in LA. Yes, I agree with that. But I also find it very discouraging that the gangs are going to the homeless people and raping and putting them on the street and making them do drugs and lucrative acts. See, that's the thing about it, that we didn't see that part, that we forgot about. Mind you, some of these gangs are Latino and black gangs that are working together to do that to homeless people. They're already down on their luck, but they don't mind kicking them because they have some more power than them. The world is built off of a power system. And maybe you don't have as much power as the next person, but we ain't gonna flex like all of a sudden that a lot of these blacks who do get some type of change, they don't share it. And those who do try to do it, they'll allow other people. Tyler Perry had a check. He didn't give it to black people. He gave it to a white school. Mind you, black women, they go see his movies, and those movies make fun of black women, but they continue to keep on fucking with him. I never understood that shit. And I'll be like, why would you support this type of man? We got to be very mindful of the people that we get behind. A lot of black people like moving us into burning buildings and playing like, oh shit, I didn't know we did that. They'll tell you get behind Hillary Clinton. That bitch ain't never give a damn about us. Just the Clinton, they like fucking black people and not playing with them. They were tearing down the Marcy projects. But then they say, oh, he's the first black president. No. You see, they know how to pander to y'all. I'm just gonna tell y'all before I stop, watch how this election goes down. And watch how they're going to try to play off of the pick-me lines of blacks. They're already doing it with that gay white man who's eating fried chicken and hot sauce and sweet tea without Sharpton. And the white reporters are taking pictures and stuff. I'm just saying, man, I can't make this up. Y'all can go look it up for yourself, man. They know how to play the game, man. And they know how to try to sucker a lot of blacks in. So I'm just saying, be very wary of those talking points, man. You know what I'm saying? They still ain't trying to fix Flint, but they want y'all to vote for them. Okay. That's all I gotta say, Irene.
All right. And with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. And I will talk to you a little bit.
Send in talk.
Yeah, but I think something happened to her connection or something, or maybe she had to go.
Okay.
Like one or the other. See, when you give it epically, we didn't get to hear Sin's final thoughts, y'all.
Listen, I had to defend my damn black.
And it's Joe's fault because I knew she was gonna say something I wanted to.
Oh yeah, she was like, man, I got it all revved up.
Oh my gosh, she said she was talking and she could not even get Hangouts to work for her. So that's why I said I think she was having some technical difficulties.
You know what? I honestly will say this was possibly the most healthiest polar opposite conversation that I can speak freely as a black conservative, and that's even with the chat. You know, there was no judgment on either side. This is possibly one of the most healthiest conversations. You know.
Well, I think that's dope. I mean, you saw who I invited up to the live, and some people were traveling, couldn't make it, and some people wanted to come, and then I was like an hour out, like recognizing that they were asking me like, what time are you doing this? So I'm sorry, y'all. But with that said, like my goal when I have panels is for it to be constructive. Like I don't want us fighting with each other because I'm not about that. I'm just about us being unified. Yep. And that means that we have to be able to work with Black people who do not share our viewpoints. And y'all already know, like, I don't feel everybody has to agree with me. I don't care if you don't agree with me. All I care about is that we are unified. And that when it comes time to move, we do that together. And then we could just agree to disagree on the other stuff. So I think that's like really like important. So I'm glad you thought it was productive. And I want to thank all of you guys I want to thank all of you guys for coming out. And I have to say, look, please don't come into my chat stirring up mess, because I don't get down with the so just as we were leaving talking about how there was no mess, somebody tried to be messy. But look, don't come here with that.
I mean, literally,
don't come here with that.
I mean, literally,
I don't get down like that. And I just want to say that moreover, you really literally cannot step to me and get me to feel any kind of way about anything, because who I am is who I am, and I'm going to be that way because that's who I am. I'm not going to be that way because somebody has done something to make themselves worthy of any sort of treatment for me. I try to be consistent across the board, even if I'm not fond of somebody. So to come here and be messy with somebody that I just don't even have a problem with, like, that's just not going to work. And so, yeah, please don't do that. Because I don't like having to block people from my channel, but I had to block you. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. And
I was doing something over there with Mine be doing about no code, and I'm gonna just be. I just like watching people nowadays. I did a show with my mom. My mom came on and did a show.
Your mom came on? Oh, that's dope.
Yep, she is now one of the richest women in the county.
I wish I had a mommy to come on.
You can take her as your spiritual mom. You can take her.
My spiritual mommy, yeah, because my mommy has gone to God, but
she's starting a YouTube channel, so I'm definitely going to send her your way.
Oh, no way. Is she really?
Yes, she is. She actually announced that on my channel. She started her own YouTube channel, and she wants to start teaching different things of advice about being a single mother, when she had to be, and how she afforded and started her businesses and all that stuff, and how a lot of people in the community, blacks and whites, they did not like her because she was doing her own thing, but she never gave up, and I was her partner for I'm still her partner, and we've been business partners for over 8 to 10 years, and you know what I'm saying, and she's now, like I said, she does her own thing, and she's living the best life with her and her man, and that's all that matters. She got her grandchildren, so
That's sweet.
yeah. So I mean, she's gonna be starting a channel. You know, a few people came into my chat, and they were I didn't think they were gonna be that emotional, but they're like, how many people didn't have their mothers? And she was like, well, all of y'all could be my mom. All y'all could be my babies. I said,
oh gosh, let's just end the stream.
You know what I'm saying?
Because I'm about to end this stream, y'all, because the trolls are coming out and I just don't have time for it.
Oh Lord, see, y'all got to always destroy a beautiful moment, man.
Bye, y'all. I'm getting out of here.
All right, bye, guys.